Whether you're an experienced photographer or a complete novice, the huge variety of features found in video game photo mods can be confusing or even overwhelming at times. Marvel's Spider-Man is no exception. It includes Insomniac's fully featured photo mode that is complete with many different camera options, an advanced 3-point lighting system, and a full complement of stickers. Lots to get your head around then, but the first step to getting the best out of it and ultimately taking better pictures is simply understanding how each feature works. That's why I'm going to use all of my photography experience to explain exactly what each photo mod feature does in simple terms that anyone can understand. The main mode here then is the camera mode, and that has all of the usual photo mod settings you'd expect, spread across 5 separate tabs. The first of which includes camera movement options as well as some on-screen visibility settings. Choosing the free camera option allows the camera to be moved in any direction using the left stick for forwards, backwards, left and right, the L2 and R2 triggers for up and down movement, and the right stick to pan and tilt the camera's aim direction, like moving your head to look around. In this mode, the overall range of movement is restricted to a large spherical area around Spider-Man. Switching to orbit camera anchors the movement to Spider-Man as a center point and only allows an orbital rotation around him with no separate control for the camera's aim direction. While the selfie mode is a very limited movement camera held by Spider-Man at arm's length as though using a mobile phone. Also on this tab we have a tilt option which actually rolls the camera around a central point to change the horizontal angle or flip all the way into a portrait/vertical orientation in either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. Cycling through the suit options will swap between any of Spider-Man's suits that are currently unlocked in the game without having to exit the photo mode.
Not good. Can't have people taking pictures of my 3 chest hairs.
Hero visibility toggles whether the player character is visible or invisible in the photo mode. Enemy visibility does the same for hostile enemy characters and is applied to all enemies at once. And show weather toggles whether the effects such as falling raindrops can be seen on screen. Clouds and ground conditions are not affected though. The next tab is the Lens tab, and this includes lots of options that will affect your composition. Field of view narrows or widens the angle of view within the frame using a simple 0 to 100 scale. Decrease the value to zoom in for a telephoto effect that brings the subject closer and compresses the visible distance between the foreground and the background. Increase the value to zoom out for a wide angle effect and to create an exaggerated sense of perspective. Exposure controls the overall brightness of the image. Increase this value for a brighter shot with strong highlights, or decrease the value to make the scene appear darker. Focus distance sets the maximum distance at which objects appear sharp and in focus. Higher values here will extend the range of focus further from the camera, while lower values will bring it closer. Note that this requires an aperture value to be set at something greater than 0 to be able to see the effects. The aperture determines how much defocus blur is applied to objects beyond the maximum focus distance, giving the effect of a shallow depth of field. Increase this value to add more blur and to create a soft defocused background complete with nice circular bokeh on distant lights. Note though that this only applies to the background, and to get an authentic depth of field like you would see in a real camera, this needs to be combined with the near depth of field options. Depth of field range near sets the minimum distance at which objects appear sharp and in focus and enables foreground blur. Higher values here will extend the blur further away from the camera, while lower values bring it closer. Depth of field aperture near determines how much defocus blur is applied to the objects in the foreground area, as set by the previous range value. The Filters and Frames tab is fairly self-explanatory, with filter type applying a preset colour filter or a stylized rendering mode by selecting between 29 different types to quickly create a different look and feel for the image. Blend adjusts how strongly the selected filter type is applied. Decreasing this value fades out the filter style and allows more of the original image to show through. Frame selection applies a pre-designed graphical surround on top of the image with 35 preset styles, and frame level sets whether the selected frame will appear underneath or on top of any stickers that are added in the sticker mode.
Kind of a circle of life thing.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good way to look at it. Thanks, Pete.
Amongst the few image effect options, Vignette Intensity applies a circular darkened gradient around the outer edges of the image. Higher values increase the opacity of the vignette, making it darker and more visible, while Vignette Size adjusts the size of the vignette with higher values, extending the darkened effect closer to the center of the image. When applying film grain, grain size will increase or decrease the size of the granular particle effects that are applied to the image. Larger grain is typically more noticeable and can also give the impression of an enlarged image or crop. Film grain strength adjusts how much grain is applied to the image. Use lower values for a cleaner shot, or higher values to increase the amount of grain to emulate the look of film photography. Sharpening applies a sharpening effect to enhance the fine details and make textures stand out more. But notice that this is a very aggressive feature and is likely to cause unwanted edge artifacts if applied too strongly. The final tab in the camera mode then is focused entirely on the selfie camera. Selfie Emote selects a facial expression for Spider-Man. Eye intensity adjusts how much the selfie emote changes the shape of Spider-Man's eyes. The selfie light turns on or off the flashlight from Spider-Man's phone, and the light intensity adjusts the brightness of the selfie light. If you're looking for much more advanced lighting options though, and why wouldn't you be, then press square and head over to the dedicated lighting mode. Here you can place up to 3 movable lights in the scene to complement or completely change the lighting effects on the subject and on the surrounding environment. Each light can be repositioned and independently set as a sphere or a spotlight. A spherical light source shines in every direction. Use this if you want to light up an entire area or don't need to control which surface the light falls on. A spotlight is a focus lamp that shines light only in one direction. Use this option to create a directional lighting and to avoid unwanted illumination of other nearby surfaces. The intensity setting controls the brightness of each sphere or spotlight, with the higher intensity being a brighter light. Cast shadows will simply set whether each light causes shadows to be created by the objects that it shines on. Keeping this turned on is recommended for the most realistic lighting behaviour. Lighting colour changes the hue of the light cast by each sphere or spotlight, while colour intensity will increase or decrease the saturation of the colour selected. Use a setting of 0 to produce a pure white light. Spread and softness are two settings that can only be used when selecting a spot lamp. Spread adjusts how broad the cone of light is from the lamp, with larger values causing light to shine across a wider angle, and smaller values narrowing the light into a more focused beam. Adjusting the softness value will determine whether the circle of light from spot lamps appears with a well-defined or faded outer edge. Increase the softness to fade the edge more. Distance sets how far the light from each sphere or spotlight will shine. You can use this to cast light onto nearby objects without also lighting up other surfaces in the background. In addition to these three customizable lights that behave as though they're in a studio, Spider-Man also gives you control over the natural light in the scene, such as the sun, the moon, and street lighting. Intensity will increase or decrease the overall brightness of the natural and ambient lighting. Elevation changes the height of the sun or the moon, depending on the time of day. Rotation changes the position of the sun or moon in the sky. You can use this to alter the direction of light and shadows in the whole environment, almost like changing the time of day. The ambient light option increases or decreases the brightness of in-game light sources other than the sun or the moon. A high value produces more light from ambient sources such as street lighting, while setting this and the natural light intensity to 0 can be used to eliminate all light from the surroundings, giving you a black background and letting you rely solely on the artificial sphere or spotlights. The final option in the lighting mode is Move Camera, and this just enables or disables movement of the photo mode camera while in the lighting mode. As a tip, you could try temporarily using a wide field of view setting to get a better overview of your light placements without disrupting your camera composition. The third and final section in the Spider-Man photo mode is Sticker mode. This enables you to place individual stickers on each of the 10 available layers. Each layer stacks on top of the previous one, with layer 1 appearing at the bottom and layer 10 appearing on top of the pile. Each sticker can be moved to reposition it on screen, rotated through 360 degrees, scaled in size, or cleared from an individual layer by pressing circle. Although being one of the most comprehensive photo modes out there, there is one setting that isn't included, and that's chromatic aberration. The game itself does feature this effect with colour fringing applied to the outer edges of the screen, so if you want to remove it for improved image clarity, head into the main game settings where it can be disabled.